When she moves her hands in a certain way while talking to you, it can feel like a secret code being shared in plain sight. Human communication goes far beyond words, and gestures often reveal emotions that someone might not be ready to say out loud. A soft touch to her own hair, slow movements tracing the rim of a glass, or gently brushing her fingers against yours can carry emotional weight. These gestures are not guarantees of desire, but they can signal comfort, curiosity, and an openness that goes deeper than casual interaction. The key is not to isolate one movement, but to observe the full context in which it happens. Hand gestures often become more expressive when someone feels emotionally engaged. If she mirrors your movements, subtly aligning her hands with yours on the table or adopting similar gestures, that mirroring can reflect subconscious connection. Psychologists often note that people mirror those they feel drawn to because it builds rapport and intimacy without words. When her hands remain open, palms occasionally visible, it may suggest she feels safe and receptive in your presence. Closed or tense gestures usually tell a different story, so softness and fluidity matter. Another powerful signal is proximity. If she finds small reasons to close the distance with her hands, lightly touching your arm while laughing or adjusting something on your sleeve, it may suggest comfort and a willingness to bridge personal space. Physical contact, even subtle, requires trust. When those touches linger just a fraction longer than necessary, it can hint at attraction. However, context always matters, because some people are naturally tactile and expressive without romantic intention. Fidgeting can also carry meaning. If she plays with her rings, clasps and unclasps her fingers, or gently taps her nails while maintaining eye contact, it may reflect nervous excitement. Attraction often creates a blend of confidence and vulnerability, and hands can reveal that inner tension. The slight tremble before reaching out, or the way she smooths her palms against her clothes, can indicate she is aware of you in a heightened way. Nervous gestures paired with warm facial expressions often point toward interest rather than discomfort. The rhythm of her movements can also speak volumes. Slow, deliberate gestures may signal sensual awareness, especially if they seem synchronized with the pace of the conversation. When her hands move gently as she speaks, emphasizing certain words while maintaining steady eye contact, it can create an intimate atmosphere. It is less about what she does and more about how it feels in the shared moment. Attraction often lives in that subtle shift of energy between two people. Sometimes she may lightly touch her own neck, collarbone, or lips while talking to you. These self-touch gestures can be unconscious signals of self-awareness and attraction. They draw attention to sensitive areas of the body, but they are usually subtle and fleeting. If these gestures occur while she is focused on you, smiling softly or leaning in closer, they may suggest she is feeling something deeper. Still, interpretation should always be cautious and respectful. Open palms facing upward during conversation often suggest honesty and emotional openness. If she combines that openness with playful or lingering touches, it may create a layered message of both vulnerability and flirtation. Attraction thrives in small signals that build gradually rather than in dramatic gestures. The way her fingers relax around yours during a handshake that lasts slightly longer than usual can be more telling than bold declarations. Body language rarely acts alone. Her hands work in harmony with her eyes, posture, and tone of voice. If her gestures soften when she looks at you, or if her fingers subtly reach toward you when you speak, those cues can reinforce romantic interest. It is important not to assume intention based solely on one movement. The broader pattern of warmth, attention, and mutual engagement is what truly matters. Confidence plays a role as well. If her hands move freely and naturally around you without hesitation, it may suggest she feels comfortable and secure in your presence. Comfort is often the first foundation of desire. When someone feels safe enough to express themselves physically and emotionally, attraction has space to grow. The absence of rigid or defensive gestures can be just as meaningful as the presence of playful ones. Ultimately, the question is less about decoding a secret signal and more about sensing mutual chemistry. Hands can hint at desire, but true interest reveals itself through consistent warmth, engagement, and respect. Instead of trying to interpret every movement as a hidden message, focus on how she responds to your presence over time. Attraction is rarely hidden in one gesture alone. It lives in the ongoing dance of connection between two people. It is easy to romanticize hand gestures and interpret them as secret invitations, but context shapes meaning. Some people naturally communicate with expressive hands, regardless of attraction. Cultural background, personality, and social comfort levels all influence how someone uses their gestures. What might feel like flirtation in one setting could simply be enthusiasm or friendliness in another. Observing patterns rather than isolated moments prevents misunderstandings. A playful tap on your shoulder during a joke might feel charged with energy, yet it could simply reflect shared humor. Laughter often loosens physical boundaries in a harmless way. The key difference lies in consistency and intention. If the gesture repeats in more intimate contexts, quieter conversations, prolonged eye contact, or moments of shared vulnerability, it may carry more significance. One action alone is rarely enough to confirm romantic interest. The environment also plays a major role. In crowded or noisy places, people may use their hands more to emphasize communication. Leaning in and touching your arm might simply be a way to be heard. In calmer, more private settings, similar gestures can feel more intimate. The same movement can carry different emotional tones depending on where and how it happens. Reading the room is just as important as reading her hands. Personal boundaries are essential to consider. Some individuals are naturally affectionate and comfortable with light touch among friends. Others reserve physical contact for romantic interest. Understanding her baseline behavior with others can offer insight. If she treats you differently, lingering touches, softer gestures, more deliberate hand movements, that contrast might indicate something special. Observing respectfully rather than assuming keeps the interaction healthy. Her facial expressions and voice tone often clarify what her hands begin to suggest. A gentle smile, relaxed shoulders, and warm eye contact paired with subtle touches create a consistent message. On the other hand, tense posture or distracted glances may contradict what her hands appear to say. Attraction is holistic, not isolated in a single body part. Harmony between gestures and emotional expression matters most. Timing is another subtle indicator. If she reaches for your hand during a meaningful pause or allows her fingers to brush yours while sharing something personal, that timing can intensify the gesture's meaning. Emotional moments often lower barriers, and physical cues can become more revealing. A spontaneous touch during vulnerability may carry more emotional weight than repeated playful nudges in a group setting. It is also important to recognize projection. When you are attracted to someone, you may interpret neutral gestures as signs of desire. The mind can amplify subtle cues into clear signals because it wants confirmation. Remaining grounded helps prevent misreading kindness as romantic intent. Paying attention to how she responds when you reciprocate subtle gestures can provide clarity. Mutual escalation often signals genuine attraction. Consent and communication always outweigh interpretation. Rather than relying solely on hand signals, building open dialogue creates stronger connection. If you sense interest, responding respectfully and observing her comfort level is crucial. If she leans in closer, maintains contact, or initiates touch again, that reciprocity strengthens the possibility of desire. If she pulls back, respecting that boundary preserves trust and dignity. The most reliable indicator of interest is consistency over time. One night of expressive gestures may simply reflect mood or circumstance. When similar signals appear repeatedly across different settings and emotional states, they carry more credibility. Attraction is usually steady rather than sporadic. Watching how her hands interact with you over time reveals more than a single encounter ever could. In the end, hands can whisper hints, but they rarely shout certainty. True desire shows itself through sustained attention, emotional investment, and mutual comfort. Instead of searching for secret codes, focus on building genuine connection. When attraction is real, it becomes less about decoding gestures and more about feeling the unmistakable rhythm of shared interest between two people.